be a member of a very liberal church or a very conservative church in the Northwest and how those relate to each other. His recent work is on megachurches, but he's also overarchingly concerned with what religion means in contemporary life. He can be both an insider. He was trained at the University of Chicago Divinity School, which is very, very academic, but still a divinity school. And he has both of these abilities to see it from different kinds of standpoints and perspectives. And I know we've been talking about what it means, what the Charlie Hebdo events meant in terms of how people view religion from the inside and out, and how the megachurches may teach us something about the whole range of religious activity that's going on down in the West. So here's Professor Wellman.
Thank you, Mimi. It's fun to be here. It's fun to get to know your university and your situation in the Humanities. I've also done a book on a character that some of you may or may not know, but a man named Rob Bell. I wrote a sort of a biography of his life. He's an evangelical pastor, a megachurch, really mega star, who created a. I'm going to close this door. Do you guys mind?
Jim, I forgot. I know you want to tell about Rob Bell. This is a big deal. Because of Rob Bell, Jim had access to Oprah. Big time American culture here.
Well, anyway, so
sorry.
Rob Bell was interesting because he had been named the Times 100 most influential persons. Anyway, in the middle of this project, somebody called me, a publisher called me and said, "Hey, you want to do a biography of Rob Bell?" And to be honest, I was a little bit bored with this research, so I said, sure. And got into it, and right in the midst of the research, he decided to leave his church in Grand Rapids, about a 10,000 member church, and come to California to make it big in the TV industry. So right in the middle of the research, I had that experience. And in the process, he got to know a lot of people in Hollywood and went on tour. I think maybe you've seen the tour with Oprah, the All You Can Be tour. So I was invited to and got free tickets to the Seattle version of that tour. So the question was, in many people's minds, would Oprah influence Rob Bell, or would Rob Bell influence Oprah? And it's really a continuing question. Some of you may be a little bit suspicious of megachurches, and I don't blame you. But in a sense, I wanted to go view and understand megachurches to see, are these a good influence on American life, or are they a negative influence? And so I'll let you decide for yourself after going through some of the research that we've done on this very interesting phenomenon. You don't want to say that this is a kind of post-suburban, post-modern form of Christianity. It really is actually new. A lot of us say in research, there's nothing new under the sun. But in this case, it's relatively new in American religion, American Christianity, since it's a phenomena that really derives from the 1970s forward. So what you see in 1990, about 350 megachurches. These are churches of 2,000 attenders or more. So not just members. A lot of churches can claim, oh, we have so many members, but in actuality, they have 100 people coming to their church. But these churches are actual churches with 2,000 or more people coming to the church on a Sunday. 600 in 2000. Now it's over 1,800. I think it's probably around 2,000 now in the country. And you might say, well, Oregon doesn't have any of these churches. Do you? Right? Yes, you do. You have over 20 megachurches, and Washington State itself has over 50. And you all, and you and I, your state, my state, are really kind of tend to be thought of as secular, non-religious, non-Christian states. But there it is. right in the midst of our states. We have megachurches beginning to thrive. The question is, everyone, one of the big stories that newspapers always want to run, the decline of Christianity, or the decline of religion, or the decline of the megachurch. I don't believe it. One of the big disasters you probably heard of is Mars Hill in Seattle. And it got a lot of controversy, and it is a controversial case. He had, 13,000 members at one time. His church actually was a part of the book I did in 2008 on evangelicals versus liberals. Mark Driscoll is a very controversial figure. Many people hate him, and to some extent, maybe they have a right to not like him very much. But interestingly enough, I'll just give you a fun little detail. My interview with him was the most interesting interview, the most fun, the most intellectually stimulating, and the funniest interview, and one more word, the most vulgar interview I've ever done with a religious figure. And I've looked and talked to a lot of pastors and religious leaders. Very interesting guy. Not shocked that his church ended in disaster. Basically, I had predicted that for several years. That church is kaput. We'll see if Mark Driscoll makes it back. A lot of people want to sue him. And as maybe we can talk about it if you have questions. So, limits of prior studies, this is what academics do, is basically say nobody else has done this, nobody else really understands this phenomena, it's true, and we do it, and we do it better. And I think that's true. I think this book will be groundbreaking in many ways. So we asked the question, why are they so successful? What does it reveal about human religiosity? And I think you're going to find some very interesting things out about this phenomenon. And they will seem very human to you, this phenomena, after I go through the data. We're using sociology for the most part, Durkheim, Goffman, Randall Collins, microsociology, interaction, ritual chains. You might say, oh, boring. Interaction ritual chains are actually the ritual chains that are occurring right now in this room. And I'll come to explain that. I think Randall Collins' work is kind of groundbreaking, revolutionary. It comes out of Durkheim, Emile Durkheim, the French sociologist, but it really is critical. Rational choice theory, not so much. Not so much. I don't think these are cognitive phenomena. In fact, I don't think universities are really cognitive phenomena. My suspicion is most human beings don't really spend that much time thinking. We really spend all our time feeling. In fact, you've already gotten a feeling from me, whether you like me or not, whether you want to listen or not. You're already wondering, maybe I should leave because this guy's a clown, whatever. So those are all feelings that might remind you of your brother who you don't like, or your dad, or whatever. Those are really critical. So we also did a little evolutionary psychology and cognitive neuroscience. And really this is my graduate students' work. Basically what we found is anything that stimulates, gives you oxytocin high. When you'll feel this when you get into a new relationship, like I am in one, and you feel high most of the time, don't you? Damn, you feel good. I feel great. So just so you know, I'm in a good mood. And it's because my girlfriend is hot and I like her. Okay? That's just true. But you know why? Because your body is just full of oxytocin going, fucking hey, this is great. Let's party. Okay? And that's a good thing. That's why we bond as humans. That's why we go to megachurches. They're a lot more fun than most churches you go to. There's 12 nationally representative megachurches in the study. Written surveys from 24,000. This is a real good respondent to go over, and attendee interviews 470 participants in this study. So, trace the patterns and motivations for interaction ritual chains. This is really helpful. This will be helpful to you to understand your lives, your social lives, church lives, political lives. Why is Bill Clinton so popular? He produces oxytocin highs. Okay? Obama, not so much. He's more of a professor. You kind of go, if you're into cognitive stuff, you like, yeah, Brooks, I just love listening to him. I get to think. Very rare human beings are usually not attracted to thinking, but they're attracted to just the spirit of it. And in campaign, and on the campaign, he's more excited. Right now, I think he's less excited. That's why I think his approval ratings go down a little bit. So these interaction ritual chains create emotional energy. EE. So you either have emotional energy or you don't. It's socially derived feeling of confidence, courage to take action, boldness in taking initiative, morally suffused energy. When you feel it, you feel like, this is right. It's not just feeling good, but she is right. She's the right person for me. That's the right church. That church is doing the right things. So it's kind of a moral initiative as well. So your sense of exaltation, sense of doing what is most important, most valuable in life. People come out of megachurches feeling like they found the truth. So a feeling of being brought out of oneself into something larger and more powerful. You get this feeling when you go to a rock concert that you like, or a club that you like, or a party that you have an interaction ritual chain. That means a flow of energy is moving around this room, and you suddenly feel like, wow, this is the right time, the right place, the right moment. Everything is coming together. All right? So the goal of sociality is experience and to gain emotional energy, basically. All right? And so traditional rational choice theory is inadequate. Humans aren't just bad calculators, and we are bad calculators. Rational choice, in terms of rational choice theory, you all are not very good calculators of what's really good for you. Always. And that's because emotion takes over and you do something bad, you drink too much, or you too much sex, or whatever. Or you spend too much money because, we're just out of these clothing shops, and I was going, damn, I love the Portland clothing shops. I almost make bad calculations with my money. Why do humans value certain things? Deepest level of value is seated in the brainstem, limbic system, emotional and motivation systems, survival, and well-being. Mammals, nursing and parental care, separation, vocalization, immediate attachment, all these come out of these systems. These really are interaction ritual chains. And oxytocin is really, I love this, the hub of sociality. You just simply, cooperation, trust, functions of levels of emotion, makes one feel all is well. Have you felt it? Okay, right now, think of a time, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Think of the last time you felt well. Take your mind back, take your body back to that moment. When did you feel well? You feel your body kind of filling with emotion? Okay, everybody come back. That's a nice feeling, isn't it? So tell me, where were you? Somebody. Where were you when you felt well? Acupuncturist. Yeah. Totally. Okay, perfect. What about you?
I can't say.
Oh, you can't say. That's good. Okay. What about?
Scoring a touchdown.
Scoring a touchdown. Recently?
No.
Okay, how old were you? How old were you when you did?
17.
17! Oh my gosh. Okay, that's perfect. You go back, and did that kind of well up in your body? Like, I am the man.
Well, especially when I got tackled and the guy picked me up and said, "Do you know Jesus?"
Wow. That's extraordinary. Okay, so what do evangelicals know how to do? Fill you with emotion, and then ask you if you know Jesus. Okay, if you want to know the trick, there is a trick to this. In religion, is they bring you into the sanctuary, make you feel like, wow, this is the greatest place I've ever been. And then what do? Ask you to receive Jesus. Right? Okay, that's how interaction ritual chains work. But they work everywhere. They work everywhere, and they work in the corporate setting. You might say religion shouldn't be doing that, but that's what they do. Collins, more EE, more successful interaction ritual. More oxytocin produced, more successful interactions. It's really as simple as that. is basically religion got sexy and stopped being fussy. And in 1970 that occurred, kind of the end of the baby boom generation. They got tired of sad, mellow worship services, and they said, let's have fun. And that's what they did. So here we are. How did megachurches produce oxytocin? How did they do it? Lots of, one of the things you'll notice is insurance agents do this too. They always shake your hand, look you in the eye, kind of try to, if they can, touch the top of your shoulder. Hopefully they're appropriate. But that's all as a way of interacting, getting the interactive ritual chain going and making a connection emotionally. It's not a bad thing to have this drug and to have emotional energy. So I'm kind of over the fact that we sort of are critical of these places because they produce this. I say, why not? Why not? I think it's great. I like having a successful interactive chain going around. And I try to use that in my classroom. So we suggest in the market for emotional energy, megachurches are convenient, effective, efficient sources of emotional energy. Religion, this is my definition of religion that I've been thinking and working on for quite a while. Religion is socially enacted desire for the ultimate, most often defined as a God or spirit, emotionally entraining belief. Okay, so that's how you do it. If you look at pictures of the Hajj, when people are on the Hajj, when they're circling in a group that's very close, there's those pictures that we often see. That is the interaction ritual chain at its best and its highest. Humans, over time, have just simply learned how to do this and do it very well. The religions that do it best are the most successful: Christianity and Islam. Yeah. What's interesting about secularization process is, as my colleague Mimi and I were talking about, the secular is also a kind of interactive ritual chain. I don't know if we'd call it a religion, but we'd certainly say the secular combines people to certain belief systems and gives them great emotion, especially when you're listening to Sam Harris or Bill Maher, right? You get charged up against those Muslims. And you say, and we've seen that at the UNC, right? Whoa, did you hear about that? The guy who killed the 3 Muslim students, sad, right? I'm terrifically sad. What was he charged up on? The new atheist movement, kind of this new sort of militant new atheism, right? Charged up. Religion really is the problem. Oh my God, I finally have a system of belief that tells me what the problem is, and in some cases what the solution is, which is to, unfortunately, shoot people. So I would say, and I'm actually going to do a class in this fall, or this spring, and basically say that I think in some sense secularization is a type of social movement, not so different than a religion, right? It is a moral worldview, right? And is it so different than any kind of moral worldview, which is certainly a religion? Now, what's interesting about secularization, some of you are like grinning and going, that's bullshit. And what you will say, what some of you will say as secularists will say, no, we have the objective moral worldview. What does that sound like? Sounds like a fundamentalist to me. That's what some Christians will say to me. No, I have the right type of Christianity. You Presbyterians, you're not even going to heaven. Okay, now, right? And I go, no way, I'm going to heaven. I'm in heaven right now. Where was I going with that? So that's interesting. Could we all as humans sort of get a little distance on our moral worldviews and say, we're not so different from each other. To exist in the world, you need a moral worldview. To exist as humans, we need interactive ritual chains. And there are more effective ones than others. And some people are more effective at getting those needs met. So here we go. This is not my work, it's Randall Collins' work. I wish I could claim it as my own. But here it is, bodily assembly. You should take notes. This is good stuff, you're missing it. Number one, bodily assembly. You want to create good human community. This is how you do it. Bodily assembly of participants, barriers excluding outsiders. We'll come to that, right? All humans, generally, want to be with their own kind, and then they create barriers. You know, and some barriers are higher than others, so it's really gets complex. Mutual focus of attention, certainly within Islam, Buddhism, meditation, Islam, the kind of submission to Allah, shared emotional mood. Then you have rituals, and rituals certainly are part of every human community has rituals. Universities have rituals. You're sitting, I'm talking, you're quiet, I'm blabbing, okay? And you know not to speak until you're until I ask you a question. And otherwise you're rude, right? Ritual systems socially construct groups that we all agree are right. For ritual outcomes, you get emotional energy, group solidarity and belonging, standards of morality. See that? Emotional energy creates also this kind of buzz of, yes, I have the right group, the right belief, and I feel good about it. And then you have symbols of membership. And of course, religions are great at that, because you all at your university have symbols of membership as well. Every group does. SEACs do. Wow. I can't even bring up SEACs. That's an interactive ritual game that just just went down. You could see on the SEACs' faces, emotional energy completely drained. Wasn't that incredible? Anyway, yeah. So sports are just as much part of this process. Ritual, and, there's a nice little kind of diagram, basically, of the processes and the ritual outcomes. You can really use sports as a kind of religion that certainly we understand with the Blazers. Thank God you still have a team. And the Seahawks. And our Seahawks and Blazers are pretty good teams. So you get a shared mood and etc. Any questions on that? Any questions just on this part so far? Do you agree with me? I think I'm right. I feel emotional energy. I must be right. I'm kidding.
I wonder then, why doesn't that oxytocin mechanism not work on me?
Not work on some people?
Yeah. Because after sex or when you're nursing your child, you basically have no choice but to produce that. But I don't have that reaction in a small church.
You go to a small church?
Sometimes,
occasionally.
but it just freaks me out. That's just personally, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think...
So what's the barrier there?
What's the barrier for you, or what's the barrier for some people? Mm-hmm. Not everyone's going to mega churches. Is that kind of what you're saying? Or you don't think everyone needs this emotional energy?
I think not everybody who went to a mega church would have that mechanism happen to them.
What I'll show you in the data is that that actually they do.
Seriously?
Yeah, but that's one of the things that we show in the study, that they're incredibly efficient at producing that experience. Yeah.
Does it matter how long they attend for? Like, is that part of the statistic?
Yeah, not everyone who goes to a mega church is going to have the same experience. Yeah. But for the most part, those who stay, 80% of them have very strong positive reactions. Yeah. Much more stronger than, for instance, at other smaller churches. Yeah.
I tend to agree with Alex, and I think what you're saying is not everybody craves to go to these. And my son and his wife belonged to a mega church in Cincinnati, and I went with them. It was so cool. I mean, when I left, it was like going to where you pay to see Anthony Robbins or something.
Right.
And I was just like blown away. But it was the huge stadium thing.
Huge stadium, yeah.
But I mean, I was just going, that was cool, regardless of what he was talking about. It was.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, I don't believe a lot of what they say.
Yeah,
I still enjoy it.
What he said.
I still enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying it does work?
Okay, I'm saying I tend to be like Alex said, where I don't tend to like get into going to things where it's going to produce or oxytocin.
Yeah,
But
I would say this. I would say this, that not everyone has the same need for the same levels. I think there's emotional energy that's much more subtle.
Okay.
And I think you're probably one of those persons. It's a good question. It's be a good research question.
Yeah.
Take 100 people who needs a sort of extra amount of emotional energy. But I think there's all sorts of layers and levels of emotional energy. When I'm with my girlfriend, it's not like a megachurch, it's more like a buzz. So I think I would argue, everyone needs it at some level. But you can get it in lots of different places.
That's all I was going to say, is that maybe you're getting it somewhere else. Those sorts of emotional resonances don't always have to come from a church setting. Right?
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah.
Or maybe like in pieces.
Oh, for sure.
Like little I tend to do little interactions with people, like,
Exactly, and some people, for instance, are more introverted, and I think there's a tendency that they don't want to be in a big room with a lot of people, etc. So, yeah.
I just want to do a sidebar about what you were saying with Bill Maher and atheism being like a church. There is a mega church in London called the Sunday Assembly. It's an atheist church. And it's growing, and it has new churches are sprouting up. The same emotional stuff, but a different content.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you knew about that.
That's one important.
Yeah, no, I would not be surprised. Yeah. I think humans in general need these interactive ritual chains. Roy Rappaport, in a study on anthropology of religion, suggests that the beginnings of religion is the process by which humans came to trust one another. In other words, and the trust, let's say early human communities, you had to learn how to trust because you wanted to sleep at night and not be killed. So you develop kind of trusting relationships that have rituals, interactive ritual chains, that allow you to say, I can trust my friend tonight. He won't reach over with his club and club me. And so then people kind of ritually begin to mark that experience. And that, as you can imagine, once you trust somebody, that creates emotional energy. And it could be subtle, it could be explosive, but I think that's really important for humans. Yeah, let's go back here.
I also think it's really interesting to add that like the socioeconomic tier by which like the head figure of a megachurch per se is surrounded by is board, as it were.
Is what?
Like his board of directors, the members of the church at the highest position.
Yes.
Are typically like very successful business people.
Yeah.
It's not like typically sages or heretics or like people that are just
that's interesting. There's.
I think it has a lot to do with it. Like a megachurch is proof in the pudding that like if it could grow that large, obviously on its own foundation, then the foundation probably at like the very center is something that's very well financially supported.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Which is like kind of proof that megachurches are grounds for that.
But it's interesting. Randall Collins has studied not just religion, but other economic and social groups. And what his hypothesis is with very rich people is they don't do it for the money. They do it because it gives them such an emotional buzz to be in the game of money making. Okay? And I really actually believe that. Some of you probably are, come on. So but what they have so much money, and what keeps them in the game is just emotionally satisfying and fun. And there's interactive ritual chains that kind of reproduce those emotions. And then, in fact, you have to have it more and more and more sometimes. But it's not just the money. It's really the interactive ritual chain that's sustaining that activity. Yeah, go ahead.
Your whole analysis here seems to be sort of inductive, sort of rising up, and I think I generally agree with that.
Yeah.
But it seems to me characteristic of this is like in political theory, the fascist emergent hero, and that is absolutely essential to have this emergent key man or woman who a lot of times in the political realm, and so that person puts into words what I wish I could say. I identify with that person, and this person is critical. And if the person falls, then the whole organization falls. So this critical person.
It is, and I'll get to that, and that's excellent insight. I don't know if it will lead to fascism, but it certainly is a. I'll show that you're right. The research. Yeah, it's excellent. Yeah.
Just in my limited reading of the phenomena that you're describing, I always understood it to be serotonin or dopamine that was generated. I hadn't really heard about oxytocin. Could you elaborate?
You know, I'm not gonna be the one to adjudicate that which chemical is which. I'm gonna let somebody else do that because it's my graduate student does that work. I hope you don't mind if I bypass that question.
I think we can agree that there's a biochemical
there's
strong component of that.
We actually have applied for a grant to try to study it in actuality, to actually take blood samples, and we haven't gotten the money yet.
Then we're gonna bottle it and sell it, right?
Yeah, well, yes. We actually take blood before they go into the megachurch, and compare it when somebody going into a rock concert.
No.
And then somebody going into a sports venue.
I love it.
And so we tried to get somebody to fund us to do those three mechanisms, and we haven't gotten it yet. We'll get there.
Are you gonna do like before and after? So
Yeah, exactly.
And they come out and then.
Exactly.
That's
So here's what we're adding a little bit. And these intense emotional experiences are the defining moments for religion, the ritual encounters with the holy, to which other rituals look back, if only as pale imitation. So the fifth outcome is heightened spirituality or connectedness to the divine. And here spirituality is defined as a desire and affective experience of the ultimate. And what we're going to show, and I think you'll see this in the data, is that megachurches are really good purveyors and providers of this experience. Okay, and some would say, and this is kind of a counter finding, some would say, no, these are merely, people that go to these churches are kind of just entertaining themselves. But actually, when you talk to them, no, it's a deep spiritual, moral transformation of their lives. Okay, overwhelming trend, expressions relating to sensory experience, tasting. One of the striking things when we went through the data is how often people would talk about tasting, seeing, feeling, touching, listening, eating, thirsting for God. They would literally they couldn't, we had some respondents say, I wish I could go to church every morning. And some said, if I miss, many went on Sunday and Wednesday. If they said they missed the Wednesday service, my next day was just bad. So something is really going on. Salvation, spiritual. So when we looked at this data, especially with the qualitative groups that we studied, we sort of looked at salvation, spirituality, acceptance, and belonging, both with God and others. And here we go to the leader. Admiration for and guidance from the leader, and for the leader. Morality and purpose through service. One of the other findings, so two really critical findings, the leaders in each of these groups is kind of an energy star. What we came to call these leaders is energy star. They really create the energy in the room and sustain this energy because people become to just simply say, for instance, one person said, I feel like he's the reincarnation of Jesus. I feel like every word he says is full of wise counsel and confirms what I believe about my faith. So yeah, morality and purpose through service. I went to one mega church down in San Diego. It's called the Rock Church. Has anybody been there? Raise your hand. San Diego, if you go back, go to the Rock Church. I love that church. It's Miles McPherson, San Diego Charger, football player, kind of handsome African-American man. Very good speaker. I didn't like him when I first looked at him online, but when I saw him in person, different story. This Sunday I went down to do the research, went through 5 services, 5,000 people through 5 services. Same service every time. Unbelievable. Anyone who can do that 5 times exactly the same way. Are you kidding me? I would blow my brains out as a preacher, or as a teacher. I had to do the same. Do you guys have you done the same thing? Give 40-minute speeches, same one 5 times a day? Holy crap. Anyway, I just couldn't do it. And anyway, he did. And the day before, they had 600 volunteers cleaning up one of the city parks in San Diego and just totally transformed the whole city park. The park the people said we could not have done this without you. They did the same day. They produced for their clothing shop and food pantry. They'd given tickets to every fireman and policeman in San Diego so that that could be given out to people in trouble. The Church Act. Okay? How smart is that? Number one. Number two, really good things. A lot of us are kind of snicker and snide. We're a little snide. I know this about liberals. Most of you are probably liberals. I know this about liberals. You're very snide about it, especially evangelical Christianity. You're very snide. Read my book. Evangelicals versus liberals. I know how snide you are. I listen to a lot of you. And I'll tell you this. I'm going to provoke you. Why not? You'll never see me again. Well, I'll tell you this. Evangelicals do so much more good social service. I'm talking about straight social service. Evangelicals actually do it. Liberals talk a lot about it and not do very little. There's empirical findings talking to a group of liberals and evangelicals. You can't, you know why you don't know about it? Evangelicals don't brag about it. Liberals brag about it. They put it in the papers. We created a homeless center. Look at us. We created. Evangelicals, I found out about it because I talked to them one-on-one in small groups. And they tell you, yeah, we created a little painting group. And we go out every Monday, and to whoever needs it, like usually little days, let's be honest, and we paint their homes. And it's fun, we have coffee, and we love each other. No one knows, except if I had been there. Anyway,
I was going to question.
Push back. Yeah, go
well,
ahead.
yeah, no, slight. But a lot of times in that situation, from how I see it, is they'll film it. They'll go do something and they'll film it, and then they'll post it and they'll use it as video to promote, and then like recruit people and use it for funding.
Good. Yep. Liberals or
no?
Oh, evangelicals. Yeah, probably. I just, in my experience with them, there was so much was going on. They may have do that a little bit, but if they did that, they could fill the whole website up with different groups who are doing stuff. Really is amazing. Yeah.
Just a really quick question. You said something about the San Diego Rock Church.
Yeah.
And the police handing out. What was that?
So the Rock Church created little basically, I don't know what, what you get at the store. You get pardon me? Coupon. Yes, sorry. Coupons for their food pantry and their clothing pantries. And so it allows people who are poor and have no food or have no clothes to come to it.
Uh-huh.
And they create a big storeroom, and so you can go get clothes and food.
And who was handing these out?
So what Rock Church did is they gave it to, it was very smart. It was smart in terms of just kind of advertising their services. Gave it to the policemen of San Diego Police Group, police, and to firemen.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, very smart. I mean, I didn't know they were doing that. It was very smart. Anyway, interaction with church chains, megachurch worships with bodily assembly. One of the critical things, and one of the things that we found is there's no barriers to attendance at these megachurches, other than just the feeling of kind of feel creepy, I don't want to go. Some people feel that way and they look at these places. But they're like malls. They look like malls, right? Who's seen a megachurch or goes to one? Very kind of mall-like structures. And you go into them, and in one church I went into, it was raining. I was walking up about 20 feet from the front door. people run out with their umbrellas, the little the greeters, and they take you in and they say, "Hi, how are you?" And you know, I'm kind of feeling cruddy because it's 8 in the morning and it's raining. But then they say, "Do you want a cup of coffee?" And so not only do that, but they come out to you with cups of coffee. Awesome. And it's usually really good coffee. So, you know, the barriers to entrance are really not very high. So the user-friendly, unchurchiness, everyone says this, unpretentious, hugs, smiles, coffee, everything. You know, some people just don't want to go to malls, as a lot of us don't like malls, but these places are easy to attend. Occasionally I have my students who are mostly secular or, you know, kind of religious but not churchy. I have them go to churches just to check them out. And they say, "Oh, I was expecting a really unfriendly place, but they were so nice to me. They actually made me feel welcome." So anyway, that's the experience that people have. Bodily assembly, when you walk in the doors of the church, you're taken out of church. You lose the bigness because you don't feel like you're at church. This is a megachurch member. You feel like you walked into someone's living room. You've walked into the mall. You've walked into whatever feels comfortable for you. I mean, you walk in and your whole perception of walking into a church, a big church or small church, is obliterated. All right? Yeah.
It has a lot to do with kind of like losing the presentiment of orthodoxy.
Yeah.
Most people who I've met that were raised Catholic, they kind of grew up with the understanding that nothing was to be taken literally, but like kind of the real like traditional ritual aspect to it, by which to kind of, you know, live kind of humanitarian. But when you walk into a megachurch, it's a little bit more encompassing, and like it's supposed to dissolve that sort of traditional like non-relevance to like the way you see the world, and it's supposed to more like infiltrate it and encompass it, so that like what you believe is like the wholeness of this experience.
Yes. Yeah.
And it validates it for you. I grew up in the church. I understand very well that they like basically expect you to take it literally to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And then not really inquire further on that. But I mean, like in large groups of people and whatnot, like you get to a more like basic social interaction with people as opposed to like a constant dialectic with them. But your whole world becomes this. So.
Okay, yeah, no, that's really nicely put. And I'll get to, we're about 45 minutes into this presentation, which we're supposed to be done. And I'm not done. But do you guys want to speed up? Want me to speed up? Or are you bored? Is the emotional energy dropping in the room?
Bring it.
You're all right?
I'm good.
Okay. So, yeah, you can leave if you want to. Bodily assembly, these are quotes by megachurch members. Authenticity, unpretentious, brings everybody to true worship. It wasn't a selected playlist of songs. That's not true. That had to be done because they were cool songs. They were songs that were genuine worship of God. Come as you are, be loved. Wouldn't you guys like to be in a place like this? Oh my God, I would. And as soon as we walked in the door, we had hugs from the door to our seat. We didn't even know, just welcoming us. People were opening, telling us their stories. First day that we were there, brought them here. You just felt welcome. You felt at home. You felt like this is your place. I never felt so welcome in my life. So your shared emotional mood and mutual focus of attention, loud and emotive music, song for worshipful mood, song lyrics set up as a need sinfulness. Present. Okay, so like this is one of the creepy things for me. I'm just speaking personally. You might not feel this way. Is the need, of course, is that you're sinful, and the solution in most of this evangelical theology, the blood of Jesus, right, who absorbs God's judgment, and that's so. Which in a sense for me is. I'm not into that kind of theology. But I've begun to realize that it's a very clear, this is the problem, my sinfulness. This is the solution, Jesus taking it for me. Okay? And that's really the theology of many of these megachurches. So my problem, this is the solution. Does that make sense to you all? And then they can show it. We literally saw a slide percolating with blood. Okay? Which,
That's so freaky.
that was freaky. No, I have to admit, I don't usually get freaked out at this. So song setup. Okay, cameras scan the crowd and project images. Observing emotion increases oxytocin. When you see, certain faces in the crowd are perfect. They get those faces. We either do this with TV and with sports. Intensified by size of congregations, group singing increases oxytocin. There are studies on that. Enhancing co-presence. You see all the pictures, the cameras that are used to give you a sense that people are really into this. You should be into it too. I go and shared emotional mood, mutual focus of attention. These are quotes. Again, I grow by watching others transform. The movement of the Holy Spirit goes through the crowd like a football team doing a wave. I could look up in the balcony and see it pass, and the people doing hundreds get saved. Wow, it's contagious. This message didn't bring us in, or it was the attitude of the entire congregation of worship when everybody's up there singing. You hear everyone singing. You want to sing. Okay, we're thirsting for God. I'll give you an example, just so you don't lose the stream here. I was at Rock Church. This is a true story. In my third worship service, same worship service, same words of the pastor. He gets done, and of course he does a call, basically a call to Jesus to come down, an invitation to come down and accept Jesus Christ. And I'm sitting there, literally, I'm doing this, I'm going, right? And something happens. Oh my gosh, this is a true story. My whole body, not my brain, not my head, my whole body says, Jed, we're getting up. We are going to go down to Miles. We want to touch Miles' hand. And and I've done a lot of this stuff. I've done a lot of this work. I literally just go, I look down, I look at my body and go, no, we are not going down. Yes, we are on our way. And so it was literally a struggle.
What'd you do?
I didn't go. I said, it is unethical to do this.
You had your chance.
So just to give you a sense of how powerful the emotions are, it can get to you. It got to me, and I mean, so these things, even with somebody who's a PhD and I've studied this stuff ad nauseum, I'm still totally taken over. Anyway. So just to give you a sense, here's the guy. Here's Miles. Miles. Love Miles. I don't know. There's something about it. Just I wanted to touch you, Miles. Okay, so pastors and here's the leadership bit. The pastor is really seen as God's mouthpiece. It's always a he. There's not too many she's in this business. Informal, casual, vulnerable, but not too vulnerable. You don't want him confessing too much sort of redeemed sin. Ideas are arousing and moving, but not intellectually taxing. We're not getting into deep doctrinal intricacies here. We've heard from folks both sides at the same time almost. We don't want to put him on a pedestal, He's real, he's human, and at the same time, something more than human. And he's something, that we put on a pedestal. That's awesome. And we had some good quotes. So he's the energy star, kind of a proxy control. Leader projects knowledge and understanding of the members' dilemmas and really offers a solution. He presents the problem and then shows how he overcame it or how you can overcome it. And so these offers solutions and models of self-efficacy. You feel literally when he offers you the solution, you go, I can do it too. I can do it. That's what AA does. Is somebody gets up and shares the problem, shares how they overcame it, and you just go, I can do it too. Pastor projection, trustworthiness, and empathy and oxytocin increase. Here's Rob Bell. God, this guy's a good speaker. Woo! I listened to 100 sermons on the treadmill. 40-minute sermons. I really got in good shape during this research. And it was several, I'd say 5 sermons where I was like crying as I was on the treadmill. So I was sweating, I was crying. He's very good. Such a courageous speaker. You know, these guys are very good at what they do. Biblical preaching, but it wasn't too complex. Unashamedly talks about sin. That's a key, you know, a lot of people say, oh, these churches really don't confront sin. Oh my God. If you're a porn addict or having premarital sex or gay, God help you. Because you know, in these church services, you are confronted with your sin. I was just listened to a sermon on Sunday. It was all about confrontation and your hidden sins. And some of us have kind of creepy hidden sins. I don't want to hear about them. But you know, it's set up in such a way that, and then at the end of the service, you're able to take a piece of paper, your unrepentant sin, write it down, put it in the tent on the altar, because you're gonna be redeemed of this sin. It's a very powerful way. In some ways, I think it's kind of a classic manipulation, but you can ask me questions about that. Membership symbols. Okay, this is critical. Once you get the emotion, pour in the symbols. You know, it's like basically making a cake. Get you charged up, then you pour in the symbols of membership. The Bible, Jesus wants you should study, you should be his disciple, you should be baptized, you should join a Bible study, you should have a small group. Feelings of morality, I mean, it's unapologetic, speaking the truth. It's not because it's what's hip. This is a lot of people say this. These churches are just hipster places. No, that's not what people think they are when they go into them. Although I think they are kind of hipster-like. Emotional climax, a lot of that stuff. That's the pastor. By the way, this pastor, this guy right here, I think this is the pastor. He's an evangelical pastor. He just came out for gay marriage. Something's happening out there in those little evangelical churches. Not big evangelical churches, I should say. Something's going on. So emotional, God loves you, becomes like, here's a great, such a drug that you can't wait to come back for the next hit. You can't wait to get involved and get high from God. Thus, my book is called High on God. Pretty smart. Good outcome, effective experience of transcendence, collective effervescence, God's presence being transformed. This is boring stuff. You can look at it some other day. So, conclusions. These are very effective and growing religious centers. They have very effective interaction ritual chains that make a lot of sense once you understand the system. And every system works based on these principles, I think. And political systems, that's how people get elected. They get charged, they get impacted by this kind of charge, and then the symbols of membership poured in. You're encouraged to act on those, and then you vote on those principles. You can see that with conservatives and liberals. Jonathan Haidt's work is really good on this stuff, describing why do liberals and conservatives get emotionally engaged. If you don't get people emotionally engaged, you get nothing. So I guess this is a way of saying, not to say, I think megachurches are pretty interesting. I don't think we should be afraid of emotions. I think people don't listen to intellectuals because intellectuals don't know how to engage emotions. And that's why a lot of liberals are not listened to. Because it's just boring and people go, oh, jeez, one more egghead. Shut up. Go ahead.
I'm interested in your opinion on this. When the presidential election comes around, or any presidential election, do you think that if an independent party had a running opponent that was like one of these guys and had the means to advertise, do you think they could get elected?
Well, I think Barack Obama came out of nowhere because it was the night.
Yeah,
was
but
it
he's still a Democrat, though. I'm talking about.
I'm just saying, 2004 Democratic convention came absolutely out of nowhere.
Okay.
It's possible, yeah. Charismatic individual.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Okay,
It's possible. It's possible. Things happen, especially in American culture with all the media.
Okay.
Yeah, I think anything's
I was
possible.
thinking like libertine or some.
Yeah, sure. I think it's possible, yeah.
Do you support the McMass Project?
The what?
The McMass Project? McMass, yeah, there's an organization there, they're trying to establish, they're raising money right now to establish the first McDonald's inside of the church.
Oh, I could wait.
Convenient, right?
Is that a joke?
No.
That's not true?
They're just
No,
trying to
it's
get
true, yeah.
McDonald's in their church.
It's called the McMass Project.
Oh,
I don't think it's
I wouldn't
doing
be
very well.
No, I wouldn't be
That's
surprised.
stupid.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not surprised almost at anything anymore, really. Yeah.
I had another comment, but let me defer to Dr. White.
Okay, sure.
Well, there's two things. First,
Yes.
you get the same thing in the silence if you take students to the Arch Street Church. 20 people only, same thing happens absolutely after 5 minutes of silence, and it's clear. That's the first. The
Yes.
second thing is, in the mega churches, we have Hargis and Baker and about 10 others who, there's, one of the difficulties is it's self-defeating in part of the leader because he is so good that he can violate his own rules.
That's a really well put. Mark Driscoll was like that, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean, violate his own rules?
Why
Like,
don't you
Stan?
say, why can you
Well,
describe
yeah,
Mark
they,
Driscoll?
you know,
as
Hargis,
a-
he
Yeah,
had sex relations with both the
Right.
girl and the boy that he
Yeah.
wanted to marry and so on.
Ted Haggard
Do
might
what I
have been the
say,
best
not
ever.
what I do.
What?
Ted Haggard might have been the best example of that.
Yeah, Ted
Well,
Haggard was,
But Jimmy Baker, I just finished his book, I was wrong. He should have put ED after, for his book.
Oh, God.
you know, one of the things that's the problem with megachurches often is that they're not a part of any wider associations. But even in denominational Protestantism, which has a lot of accountability systems, which tends to discourage entrepreneurial personalities from rising up from within them. And so entrepreneurial personalities are not drawn to these denominational accountability systems. It's too much work. I just want to do the ministry. Let me go. Paul, in a sense, was like that in the New Testament. I'm not going to go through your system. You know, you guys are about the Jews. Well, the Gentiles are available. I'm for the Gentiles. And you know, and he basically got away with murder. So I guess maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure where I was going with that. Did I answer your question? Maybe not. But it's fascinating to watch. Mark Driscoll, I think, oh yeah, this gets to your point. Mark Driscoll was so good at what he said. He used to preach. And after a while he said, you know, and he was so good. I think he had probably a photographic memory. And he said, I prepared for my sermons. I prepared for sermons in about 5 minutes. So everybody thought he was like this genius. And he really was a genius. But I think he just sort of started to believe his own myth. And then he bought his book onto the bestseller list. He started plagiarizing from other books, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was fantastic, and you've done an excellent job of identifying the method to the madness. And I'm curious if the members of the megachurches that you've studied, or the leaders, or any evangelicals that you know of, have looked into your work and seen how you identified the mechanisms and basically sort of like revealing a magician's secret. I wonder if you've had any reactions to that, or if they are comfortable with having their system viewed as a system instead of a spiritual event.
That's a great question. Well, I'm dating an evangelical.
There you go.
And that's interesting. I could go into that, but I probably won't. I'm not sure if the relationship can last if she doesn't begin to look at her own system as objectively. Does that make sense?
Do you
So when somebody begins to get distance from their kind of moral, religious, spiritual world, then things really are threatened. The distancing is kind of a threat. Now, that doesn't mean when you get distance, you have to disclaim it or say it's not true. But once you get distance, you have to kind of come back to it with a second naivete, because you know it's a human construction then. Once you know it's a human construction, like I do, I still believe in, I'm still actually a Christian. But that was after a lot of work. Realizing, no, this is just a human construction. It's potentially true that God's real and that Jesus actually did all this stuff. I don't know. You don't know. How are you going to prove it? I can't prove it. I think it's probably a pretty good system. So that's why I still believe. But that was a lot of work to kind of disenchant, detach, come back, have a second naivete. You know what I mean? That's a lot of work. Should everybody have to do that?
Can I?
I don't know. Go ahead.
I don't want to intrude somebody else. I'm just curious about that notion of second naivete. Just after like some kind of demythologization takes place, I wonder if it's possible. I'm curious how one gets there. I guess does that make sense?
Oh yeah, no. I think everything once you demythologize is another good way to say it. Is yeah, the world is you get distance,
right?
And I think there's a disenchanting process, which is depressing. But I think you can come back and say, yeah, I still believe in those principles.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Without believing maybe in the myth, is kind of the demythologization principle of the German.
I'm thinking of Wellman.
Wellman, yeah. Wellman's demythologization process. But sure, I think people can do that. I do it. I definitely can do it.
Okay, one other question, and my last one, I promise. As you were speaking, I just kept thinking of Theodore Adorno and his work on the authoritarian personality.
Yes.
And his comments and dialogue. There's so many places. I don't have to cite them all.
Yeah.
And it struck me that you're really putting out a blueprint for authoritarian potentialities.
Yeah.
How do you see it, or does?
But I'm also kind of, sort of uncovering the mechanisms.
Yeah. Okay.
They can use it to become authoritarian. They can also use it to say, yeah, these are tricks of the trade, and I don't want to manipulate people. I literally just wrote a letter to a pastor. I'm not going to reveal who it is. He's really a smart guy. I think he's manipulating people.
Oh, interesting.
And I think he's using fear to force them to be involved in their churches. And it bugs the hell out of me.
That does not sound like a novel concept.
Really?
I have a follow-up question.
No, I guess, I know, that's not novel, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's really well put. I guess I had not felt that way before until I experienced this specific worship service. And I thought, damn, man, you're just scaring the hell out of people.
Yeah.
And it's a theology that's really not fully sustainable from even a biblical basis, I don't think. And so that kind of bugged me as a Christian that he was doing that. But yeah, good point.
To what extent did you feel like you encountered phoniness, like among the different churches that you visited?
Really, I don't feel that way. They could be covering it up pretty well. I don't know. Maybe you guys have. I don't know. I didn't see too many. I think people who are really phony get exposed after a while. It's a matter of time. I'm not sure Driscoll is a phony, or I don't know what that guy is. That guy's a weird guy. I wouldn't trust him with anything. But he's really talented. I get off on studying really talented leaders because they're just super interesting. It's like doing a complex math problem. Just want to figure out how did you do that? that's really, like Rob Bell, so good. I think he means it. I've actually got to be a friend of his. I think he really means it. I think. I'm about 98% of the way there. Do you know what I'm saying?
Not with respect to Rob Bell, but yeah.
Anyway, so I don't know. Yeah, this one. You have a copy.
Did you do any study into the demographics of these churches? Are there any common patterns in the megachurch demographically?
Yeah, I think it's younger groups. Yeah, especially that's a good question.
I would assume
40s,
mostly young
40
adults,
somethings. 40s. That's kind of mean. I would say mean 40, early 40s. So it's a younger group. Yeah. Wait, I'm gonna go back here.
Well, it's that was a prelude to my question, which is more specific. If you agree that the political, that these churches and their members fall mostly on the right of the political spectrum, what would you account? What traits of the followers lend themselves to that kind of political?
That's a great question. I think Jonathan Haidt, I just literally listened to his description of morality and liberals and conservatives. And I think tradition, strong leaders, conservative, people who don't want a lot of newness. Liberals, the strongest trait in liberals, they want something new. They want to experience something new. Megachurches really don't give you anything new. They just do the old stuff really in a fun way. So it's traditional, kind of keep people in line, try to keep families together. So, it's kind of good middle-class American values. And that is a preference of conservatives. That's a pure preference of conservatives when I read Jonathan Haidt's work. Liberals would say, oh, this is madness. I want something new and different. Give me something innovative. This is just the same old stuff. So yeah, I think there's definitely a preference there. Yeah, sure. No.
Yeah. You were talking about denominational constraints. I like to attend church services and so on, listen to the sermons.
Yeah.
And I find it's a parade of Christological heresies. You'll have Nestorian Christians, Monophysite Christians, Arian Christians, all of these
This guy knows what he's
heresies.
talking about.
This leads to the point that there is the image of Christ, who's supposed to be the center of it, is a shimmer. It's just sort of swimming there. Defined by various pastors in various ways, and the constancy is not this Christ that you're supposed to heap all of your burdens on and so on. The constancy is the personality of the authoritarian pastor.
Right.
But people just don't seem to address that these groups, their Christologies are just not thought through. And I've had friends that have actually attended classes, Bible classes, in a lot of these groups, and they're exhorted, don't go anyplace else. It's good that you not take a course at your community college. Don't go to other sources. Don't read other books because you're going to get it from us.
Yeah, I'm finding
by the pastor.
I'm finding some truth to what you're saying. And, for instance, with this, if you present a different, for instance, a different theory of the atonement, they'll say, no, that's not the one that I think is right. My pastor wouldn't say that's true.
The term I wanted to use, it's the Christ image is a portmanteau. It's what's convenient for the pastor.
Yeah,
and when people are supposed to put this ultimate trust in it, and it swims around, and it's only ad hoc defined by the pastor to fit his purpose at that time.
Yeah, to some extent. Yeah. I think they try to be biblical as much as they can. But you got a point. Yeah.
Maybe one more question, folks, because we do have to.
Yeah, I don't know who's not.
The one thing I have not heard addressed, and it may not apply to megachurches, but is that they're a system of ostracization if you leave
if you leave.
In like, you know how most fundamental churches, there's a system in place where there's going to be social repercussions if you do not remain within the structure.
I don't think there's so much a pushing out, but certainly on leader, if you're in leadership, you have to toe a moral and theological line of the pastor in this case.
All right.
Yeah, so again.
Was that clear?
And there's certainly church discipline,
Okay.
especially around sexual issues. Those are.
Okay.
You know, I'm kind of struck by how sex is such a dominating moral category for these churches. Well, anyway, you can ask afterwards if you want to. Thanks, you guys.
Yeah, thank you.